What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of CollectCo Connection, your one and only accounts receivable podcast. Today, we've got a special guest in the studio, Jordan Esbin, founder and CEO of Credit Pulse. Credit Pulse is an AI-powered risk management platform that's redefining B2B credit by blending traditional scoring, alternative data, and advanced risk models and delivering predictive insights that help businesses make confident decisions, reduce bad debt, and increase profitability, focusing on truly scalable credit intelligence. Jordan brings a strong background in financial services, software solutions, product management, and banking as a service. And under his leadership, the team has built a fully transparent credit dashboard that combines AI-driven confidence and human-led decision-making. And the result? Smarter tools to identify predictive signals, assess bankruptcy risk, and score the likelihood of late payments before they happen. And today, we get to sit down with the legend himself. Jordan, brother, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks so much for having me, Chris. A great, amazing intro.
Thanks, dude. Hey, man, we try and show up. We try and show up when it matters most.
Love it. Yeah, happy to be here.
Dude, so stoked to I love your team. First of all, I've communicated with Melanie. You and I got to have several one-on-ones. Just really excited to kind of talk about all the neat things you guys are doing over at Credit Pulse. And it's funny, we were joking earlier. Obviously, my world is debt collection, and I was telling you, like, I wish that more of our clients were using a service like Credit Pulse, and maybe the paper that ended up on my desk wouldn't look the way that it does so frequently. So I'm stoked to sit down with you, man.
Amazing. Yeah, looking forward to diving in. And yeah, we do have an amazing team.
No, for sure. So the first thing I kind of want to drive into, and like all vehicles of the financial services right now, it's AI this, AI that, and it truly is like such an advanced technology that is making some of these processes far more effective, far more efficient. So let's start off with, obviously, Credit Pulse brands itself as human-led but AI-powered. It's efficiency-driven. Walk me through how you're leveraging the AI technology uniquely, and like, how does it support that full credit life cycle? Like, what is that about?
Yeah, sure. I'll actually start off by saying, like, there's a lot of startups out there that are kind of AI for everything, or, AI could be for everything. And we're, I think we're a pretty thoughtful group on how we think about AI and want to apply it. It might be a little weird to start with, but we don't think AI is actually is great for everything. So we're trying to be pretty careful about how we apply it. And in credit specifically, some of the challenges that we see that are really good for AI are things like data collection. So with Credit Pulse specifically, initial problem I wanted to attack is small business risk analysis. And it turns out, great problem for AI because it's all essentially going out and grabbing data from all these disparate sources.
Yeah.
Saves people a ton of time from having to Google search for everything. And so we use things like AI and machine learning to go out and do that research and automate it. It's yeah, so far so good. Our customers save a lot of time using AI in that sense.
No, for sure. Dude, I love that you said, because I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, we're seeing AI agents now, we're seeing AI used in perhaps a medium that A, is not necessary yet, or the technology isn't where it's supposed to be for it to be like the standalone vehicle. But you hit the nail on the head is, dude, leverage AI for the data scraping. Like, look, man, what you guys are building in terms of, like, we call it a propensity to pay model, or like that propensity scoring module for risk mitigation, that is the foundation of how AI should be leveraged right now. Because to your point, like, and I want to get into your platform as well, it's hard, and you got to like pay for subscriptions to find out if somebody's filing for bankruptcy, or sometimes you don't always know where to look. So to be able to leverage it from isolating millions of data points into this comprehensive dashboard that any of your clients can just pop into, come on, man, that's gold. That's gold. And the human-led decisions, I think, that's the magic, is
That's
you
right.
can't replace the humans in the equation at all.
That's right. Yeah. So there's, you're exactly right. We look at like two pieces. So if you look at the progression of AI, like first was like cat memes because it was like low risk. Like if you got the wrong cat meme, like you said, hey, I want it wearing a red shirt, but it was purple, no one cared. And
Yeah.
but as AI starts to step up into our personal lives, and then we're starting to see it in enterprise, it starts to matter what that outcome is. So there's two reasons where we look for where AI should not be used. One is things like deterministic decisions, like you said, where it's like it's a very either set piece of rules that are you don't want it to hallucinate or make an error on,
Right.
or there's really human intuition that's really needed. And we find both those things to be very true in credit, where it's like there's a ton of context that AI doesn't understand. Um, maybe it will in the future, but like really best for a human to do for now. The other piece is just relationship, like credit, as you know, in collections, all relationship. And, I don't think AI can replace human relationships.
I agree.
That'll be the last thing that go. Emotional intelligence, how we talk to people, how we hang out in podcasts. Like, yeah,
No,
no one really
exactly.
wants
You
to
could
work
be
with a
talking
human.
to a robot right now, Jay,
We're gonna do like a validation check on you, but I think that those are some of the big reasons why we say human led, because AI can augment, but we don't think it should be replacing people.
For sure. Man, I rock with that so hard. I have the very same opinion of, and look, it is cool. It's super cool technology, and I'm making cat memes like as much as everybody else is. Come
More of
on.
a dog guy, but yeah.
No, you know what I mean? But like it's got to be a slow and really like decision focus led evolution of how we integrate that type of powerful technology into our lives. So
That's right. That's right.
that
Yeah, and
that's my take.
yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Yeah, we want to be thoughtful about it.
No, for sure. So let's jump in a little bit. I want to talk about like how does Credit Pulse streamline customer onboarding? Like I imagine that a lot of your customers right now, they can easily plop onto the platform if they have a prospect that they're considering onboarding, just like get this full in-depth overlay of their financial health, any risks that could be absorbed along with it. Like what are you seeing from that support in the customer onboarding process?
Yeah, for sure. There's a few steps that we look at, and it's basically looking at what people have done in the past for the last 200 years with credit. Initially you got to figure out, have the customer give you some information. And that's always basically been done with PDFs and paper
Yeah.
forms and carrier pigeons, maybe, who knows? And then the second piece is like, once you get that information, how do you figure out and marry that up to what everyone else thinks about that company and how they've interacted with other people?
Yeah.
We look at it kind of step by step. So it's basically an application and then it's the analysis. And in each of those steps, we really want to improve the credit manager's life or a corporate's life on how do we go about that. So step one is we've digitized that credit application and made it really smart. How do we make it more configurable? So if your customer wants to buy widget A and they want to spend more than $50,000, maybe they need to be answering different questions than if they were spending less than that and buying a
Yes.
different widget. So very high need for configuration and have it be really smart is really important to folks in this space. And that's what we've deployed. The second piece is like automating some of the processes that people just don't like doing on the back end. So bank references, trade references, we have the ability to automate all those steps. So we'll automatically send out reminders and invites for people to submit that information. And we find like most people underestimate how much time they spend on follow up for trade references or trying to get in touch with the bank.
For sure.
It's crazy. Like way more. Most people think we spend 10, 20% of my time on that. But when you talk to some of these larger credit shops, it's more like 70% that can be sunk into just customer onboarding. So we've really like dissected each little part of the process and been like, all right, how can we improve that? How do we send out the reminder instead of having a human do it? And it's worked really well. It saves people about 60% of their time on collecting the information and then doing all those follow-ups.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other piece is the analysis. So how do we basically source all that data automatically that people are otherwise going to use Google to go find? So, probably the lowest level data we get is like we build these profiles on even like the company principals because people want to know like five C's of credit. How do they look for character, for example?
Right.
Spun up 10 companies in the last 5 years and declared bankruptcy or stripped all the money out. People want to know these things. They want to look for those signals. So we pull in things like social media profiles
That's
on the
wild.
executives. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. We go to the nth degree to go get this data. We get data from banks. We get website and social data on the company. We get trade line information like other folks. But really, if there's data out there on these folks, we want to get it and bring it directly to the credit manager's desk. So save them a lot of time and give these insights that they otherwise would not have.
Yeah, man. Dude, it's so important. Couple things that I want to dig deeper into. So one, obviously your point at the time saving for the reference automation is unbelievable. And the thing that strikes me about, I mean, the platform in itself is that, man, do you know how many major companies aren't even doing reference checks or bank checks? And so now you're not only inviting this new concept of, hey, this is a great way to mitigate risk, but you're also providing a solution that makes it so efficient and effective. And so, like, and that's just one piece of the puzzle to the three steps. The thing that stood out to me as well is, man, there's so much fraud out there right now. And these fraud guys, they're getting so good. Like, we have people come in through our website all the time, and they're just trying to hawk a fake debt to us, and then they've got a fake debtor, and they're prepared to write the check immediately. So having a system in place where you can quickly identify, hey man, this whole thing is a scam, and you're looking at like, when was that email domain created? When was the website created? Like,
Right.
I just Google searched this address and it's a barn in the middle of Michigan. There's no way this is a Fortune 500. That
Don't click
is,
for that address.
you
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about. That's the level of research that so many companies are missing, and why I'm such a proponent of credit pulse, especially with my position. It's just bonkers, man. And going back to my first comment, like, there's so many big companies that don't do any of this at all. And you've got a solution right here. And bro, the dashboard. I want to get into the dashboard. Obviously you've got the, like, there's an image on your website of some of the insights. Talk to me about like building that bad boy. It's all
Right. Sure.
real time monitoring. Like, I know that you came from a software development type of stance. You've been in the banking as a service. Like,
Yeah.
how fun was that? And what went into that evolution, man?
I don't recommend anyone try to recreate that for many reasons, but my background was initially in risk management, and I started to see how hard it is to evaluate risk on companies. And I looked at it from like financial reporting risk, reputational risk. I even did some child labor, like audit type risk, where you're trying to read
Mm,
out when you have some really bad issues. And they each have their own really specific domain knowledge. And so what we did with Credit Pulse is like all manual to start. I was, working 20 hours a day for a year and a half, manually creating these like comprehensive profiles on these companies in Excel. And I was going line by line, hundreds of companies a day. And then I was just like asking for advice from our early adopters. Like, what do you think about this data point? Do you think this is a leading indicator? And I just kept going and just kept going and going and going. And we basically became these like credit investigators. And then eventually we had enough data that we're like, all right, we're kind of starting to see when companies go bankrupt and what are the leading indicators that credit bureaus don't pick up on. And then when do companies pay late and what are the leading indicators for that? And we got some data scientists, my friend Brent that I've worked with in the past.
let's go, Brent.
He's awesome in City. Shout out to Brent and Capsa. But we built this incredible machine learning model. It's actually not, I wouldn't call it AI. It's like old school AI, but
Yeah, you were using Excels. You were doing it yourself.
yeah. And the model we use is, Brent and team built it, but it's extremely predictive. And that has really become the core kind of brain of our risk engine. And the cool thing is then everything that we've built since then is basically sat on top of that. So
Yeah.
you were referencing our dashboard. People always say like, hey, like our credit bureau data is like really noisy. So we just don't pay attention to it. And we said, okay, we could probably help you figure out how to make it less noisy. So we actually used our own model and said, all right, what are the real leading indicators that people should care about because they matter? Throw away all of the other pieces of
Yeah.
noise. And so when you look at our dashboard, we'll tell you immediately when things change. So if someone has a class action lawsuit, or they turn over their entire executive team, or their DBT goes from 5 to 50, those are things that truly matter. Those are the things we want to surface in a way that people pay attention. And where the human comes in is, you see it, it's time to go ask some questions of your customers, figure out what's going
Exactly.
on. Do you have a liquidity issue? How much do you think that you're going to settle that lawsuit for? Uh, Try to figure out what's going on behind the scenes. And maybe over time we'll have more of those answers built in. But right now we're just like, how do we trigger someone to have the right conversation?
Yeah. No, it's fire. The real-time monitoring aspect into that platform is the game changer, because especially in something like a bankruptcy, once it's actually filed, you're talking about a pretty short
Yeah,
timeline of when
way too
you
late.
have to, like, whether I'm filing a proof of claim, we got liquidation of assets coming up. And so to be able to get that trigger instantaneously, say, hey, Chris, you might have a problem with this one. It's absolute fire. And that's why I love all the different driven data components that you baked into it. And look, I read there was one evaluator that said that Credit Pulse's accuracy is 90% on all test data sets. And that's not just like a farmed out figure. Like, you guys are really putting a lot of focus and intensity at ensuring that the data and the response is as disgustingly accurate as possible. Did you know that it was going to be performing so well? Or obviously you're using a large language model, so it continues to learn the more that you feed it. Talk to me about that world a little bit.
Yeah, sure. I don't think I've actually seen that review. I got to go check it out. But that it is right. We have kind of two things that we really look for. One is match rate. Like, what's your ability? Our customers are mostly mid market into the enterprise, and 99% of their customers are typically small businesses.
Hmm.
Notoriously hard to find. So the first thing we look at is like, how frequently can you find them? And we're way north of 90% on what we call match rate on that. And,
Love
and
it.
that's basically, do we have a profile for them or not? And basically our logic in our system is like pretty helpful to do that, because we kind of waterfall through all these different sources and not just rely on one credit bureau.
Was just gonna ask you that. So you guys are for sure waterfalling your data sources so that you can like double, triple, quadruple data set test and verify.
Yeah, and we'll just get better at that. So we're open invite here. Like we're open to working with any data provider out there, whether it's credit bureau or anyone else. Like we want to get the best data in and whatever people prefer, but we see a big value in having these things kind of work together. So we've got one that is really good at sourcing web data, one that's really good at people data, one that's really good at trade, Secretary of State type data. So if you start to mash those all up, you get something really powerful. So match rate's number one. Number two is accuracy and predicting late payment and bankruptcy, like 12-month
Hmm.
PD. And that's where we've made some gains, significant gains over your run of the mill credit bureau, where what we learned in that process is that a lot of credit bureaus will increase their accuracy at the cost of what's called an error rate, or basically false positive. So saying someone will go bankrupt and then they don't. And so they've all ended up with kind of this kind of average accuracy rate at the cost of this error rate that people don't really go back and look at. And we said, that's kind of silly. Let's try to improve upon both of those at the same time. And if we do
Hmm.
that, then we're really pushing the industry forward with true accuracy. And yeah, I'm very happy to tell you, like, that's really how we thought about it. And we didn't want to, just kind of cheat with that trade-off. We really wanted to push both forward.
No, for sure. Well, it's a reliable and it's an accountable resource. I mean, look, even I can say this, but everybody's like individual consumer bureau credit score, right? Like, if anybody, you log into your TransUnion, your Experian, your Dun& Bradstreet. First of all three of those scores that the bureaus are giving you, A, are different, and B, are not even the derivative of the score that major banks or lending companies are going to be looking at to determine the plausibility of acceptance. Like, if
You're
you're
right.
trying to get a loan for a pool and you're walking in going like, dude, experience says I've got a 720, let's lock it in. Um, a lot of times, that is not the number that is used to register some of this really in-depth data to make that decision. So
That's right.
going back to your use of the waterfall, that's why your data is as accurate as it is you're cross-verifying against multiple sources. I'm sure in some cases with respect to detailed pieces of nuanced data, hundreds of thousands of sources leveraging AI so that you can compartmentalize a truly not even guesstimate, but highest probability out there of what the end result is going to be. That's bonkers, man.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And it's collecting the data is kind of step one, and then sorting through it much harder problem actually, and trying to
Yeah.
figure what's signal versus noise. But you're right. Like when you look at a bank underwriting process or a corporate, credit team trying to figure out how much to give in credit, it's really dependent on the company as well, because we got some customers that when they go into a market, they want to own the entire business for their vendor. They
Yeah.
would become that critical vendor, and they want like over 50% of their purchases, they want to come through them. And then we have others that are like, we're okay being at 5 or 10%. It's just different markets. So, where, well, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but like one of the places we're looking to go is like, how do we operationalize basically these credit policies against the data points we already have, both our high level ratings, but also if you want to dive into the details, making that really easy to consume and make
Yeah.
decisions with.
No, you're right. Cause it is anytime you're looking at any of those like bureau reports or credit scores or financial health, sometimes it's just like a lot of words, a lot of numbers on one paper, and it's super hard to compartmentalize even in the underwriting process. Like I've seen underwriting go south on what I would assume to be perfectly sustainable models or opportunities just because value gets lost in the noise in the way that some of that information is categorized and presented. So
Yeah, it really, yeah, yeah.
I would be stoked to see that next step in the Credit Pulse Avenue to start offering that. Who is your ICP right now? Like, who are the companies that you guys are working with most frequently? Like, where do you feel like this in general, this is the best pocket company that really would get the best benefit from what you guys are doing?
Yeah, sure. I joke with my team, our ACP is really simple. It's anyone with money to spend and then a credit problem to solve.
There we
But
go.
honestly, like we can fine tune that a little bit. Building materials has been really good for us. We find that there's a lot of mid market building material suppliers, distributors, OEM shops, and they're selling to audiences that are hard to assess for credit risk. General
Yeah.
contractors, construction companies, roofers, solar installers. These companies, for one reason or another, sometimes it's lawsuits or just their nature of being very regional. The owner might have started 5 companies in the last 20 years, and right or wrong, that's really hard to track down. And they don't have a whole credit history with a credit bureau. So
Hmm.
that's really, the first place we've made the biggest difference is building materials. The other one that, you probably would guess as well is food and beverage, and where we're at with the state of the restaurant industry and even grocery stores. Really hard industry right now to be in.
Yeah. Just because inflation messes with those guys so hard, and you working with an SMB, and inflation hits the wrong side of the paperwork for them.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Yeah, there's lots of stuff. I mean, consumer confidence been all-time low, and people stop going to restaurants or buying expensive groceries when that happens. And
Yeah.
and labor costs have never been higher. So anyways, like we've worked with a few large food and beverage manufacturers, supplier, distributors, and we can really make a difference for them, getting to the root at, a mom and pop restaurant, what's going on there. We have this really special data that we get from the US banks that no one else in this industry uses today. And
Dope.
it's really helpful for B2C type companies like restaurant, retail,
Yeah.
small, even like small value, yeah, small contract size like B2B, we get like awesome data on that no one else has. And then the third ICP, super long answer to your question that we did not see coming, even though I should have, because I was already in software. software companies are eating up our solution.
Huge, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I initially pushed back and I said, like, you guys don't really have a credit problem, do you? Like, if your customer stops paying, it's software as a service, just turn it off. And it turns out no one really wants to do that.
Yeah.
And a lot of these companies, because of AI, are moving to a usage-based model where they are billing in arrears, and it starts to become this huge issue. So we're working with some of the biggest like technical marketplaces in the world, and they're trying to figure out like one, which vendor should we work with on the vendor risk management side, and two, they might have a million customers. Like, which of those customers, as they grow, should we be able to allow them to move to this usage-based model where, you're essentially giving them a credit with billing in arrears. So that market's been totally awesome. I was in San Francisco last week, talked to a ton of software companies, and like that,
Get it.
yeah, that was not on my bingo card this year, and it's been sweet.
No, but dude, you hit the nail on the head. Look, those software companies, especially in the startup space, but even in the enterprise space, what's one thing they're trying to do? They are trying to grow at scale.
That's
And
right.
obviously, you've got sales yahoos like me that are like, just push it through, just push it. They'll pay, I promise you. But being
Couldn't love
able
that.
to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being able to leverage a platform when you are onboarding 100, 1,000, 50,000 new potential customers every single week, like that's bonkers. And so for even like at an enterprise size, again, just drumming back to why I love Credit Pulse in general is having that effective and efficient module for growing at scale, but still maintaining your risk mitigation and operating off of valuable data to make your decisions. Come on, man. Like that's what every company needs to be doing. And my last point on that is the thing that I love the most is I do see that there's a space for SMBs to be an ICP for you. Why? One, to your first point, is that sometimes their customers, like, they don't even have a website. You're operating off of a Gmail. This guy's in his basement or in his garage, and he's just trying to live the American dream, man. So that's one. But number two is, and kind of going back to the restaurant industry, particularly in the mom and pop space, like one of my best friends runs a pizza joint. This guy is not an accounting master. Like he doesn't, there's a business ethic. He knows how to run a business, but no way, no how are these guys equipped to be able to even think, should I do a fraud prevention check? Should I run a financial health? You know what I mean? And so, like, instantly you're giving them this tool and this platform to go, hey, you know what, man? You don't worry about the credit side. You just worry about making the best pizza you can spit out of that oven. And we're going to tackle the rest with some of this data intelligence. And I think that that's dope because I'm a huge contributor to seeing some of these small startups, these SMBs, these mom and pops just rise and become the best that they absolutely can. And you are allowing that through the protection that you're providing. So that's awesome.
That's right. Yeah, we think if we're doing this right, we're helping these corporates also become more comfortable with essentially giving credit to these small businesses. So
Yeah.
we very much like want to see economic value for these small businesses. I mean, everyone's got a working capital issue. We want to play a part there and make sure people are getting that capital that they need.
I love it, man. I love it. Let's jump a little bit more back to the platform itself with, I notated this term, explainable AI.
Oh, yeah.
So, can you walk me through or can you explain how the platform ensures transparency? Meaning, like, how does it surface explainable models so that credit teams can understand why a rating or an alert was triggered? And then, just for a bit more context, I know that there's a portion of the service that is the G2 review notes. And so, like, talk to me about that.
Yeah, sure. The first thing I'll say is like the AI today that we all see is very different from the AI that, we worked in 10 years ago. And the AI that everyone's consuming today is very language based. It's not a great problem to like solve for like math, for example, or like very strict rules.
Right.
We've been building these hybrid systems, and our initial entry into AI was just more traditional machine learning. And what we learned there is it's really hard to explain how a machine works, especially machine learning.
because it's all behind the scenes. It just spits out a response. Yeah.
Yeah, the logic is insane. Like it's this huge decision tree. If you know a decision tree, it's like, you could draw one on a piece of paper, for, making a decision in your life. But the decision tree that our system essentially uses is tens or hundreds of layers deep, maybe thousands at this point.
Yeah.
And so it becomes really hard to explain, how do we arrive at this decision? So initially we're like, all right, we need to explain really simply, how do we arrive at this answer, and be very transparent. We just don't want people to think it's a black box, because it's not. It doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
So that's the explainable part. We actually tell people what are the most important factors, and we weight them and say, hey, this is the most important negative thing. This is the most important positive thing that's went into our recommendation. And now where we're headed is, we're taking the explainable machine learning part of it, old school AI,
Yeah.
and we're feeding that now into an LLM, so a new AI. And that's where, even last night at like midnight, we were working on this. It is mind blowing how good it is at explaining what's going on. So it's AI basically sitting on top of machine learning, and it's
Yeah.
thing. So we'll be putting that out here soon. But people want transparency, like duh, but they don't get it from a lot of the incumbents in
Yeah.
space. So that's been a super fun project to work on. It's like the most pure part of connecting what humans want, and how new technology is able to provide that.
No, completely agree. Well, and like, look, you kind of said it yourself, is that with that level of transparency comes along the trust. And when you have the trust, you have the opportunity to continue to grow and scale. And I mean, just even going back to my comment about the bureaus, is they'll give you like four little lines and go, well, you're 91% on accurate payment times. You got two credits pulled in the last 90 days. But to the percentage and to the how it tiers up into a primary score, a lot of that stuff is all just background algorithmic noise that you're like, well, come on, man. You know how some of them will give you like very good, very needs improvement, very good. You're like, bro, I got four very goods out of five, and I'm sitting here with a 602 score. Like, somebody make it make sense to me,
Yeah,
type of thing. So
help
that
me.
transparency is power, dude.
Yeah, it's I've got two little kids, and they ask, why 5 or 20 times in a row. And credit managers should be doing the same thing. I think it's ask
Yeah.
why do I have this score? Dig a little deeper, and our goal is to help them dig. And people deserve to know how these things work. And it's a pretty opaque world that we live in, and we want to shine a light on how we're bringing this to life. So it's kind of foundational, but like as we look forward to it, that's the foundation that needs to be put in place before we really help these companies with their larger scale issues. So we think it's really important to get that stuff right.
No, I love it, man. You guys are doing all the right things, and there's such a synergy, like, between you working with a company. Because look, debt's going to happen regardless if you have the best score. Like, there's always some risk involvement if you're growing a business. But to especially when that type of paper, after using a service like yours, comes into my world, it's through and through, A to Z, end zone to end zone. The probability of collection, or the collectability, if you will, whether it's internal, it's happening in your billing department, or if it ends up on my desk, there's such a cohesion of data, and it just makes that opportunity for recovery so much greater. There's always going to be a bad actor. You're going to find bad actors that on your module, dude, the highest score possible. You got the team going, dude, sell it, baby.
Yeah.
Sell it at the highest figure you can, and things are going to go south. But having that type of backup data is everything in the world, and is really just protecting the pants off of some of these companies. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think one thing I'll add there is, what we've learned about credit is a lot of times, like, the decision is coming too late in the sales cycle. So maybe you have a policy that, hey, sales has to get credit approval before you offer them net 30 or net 60. The majority of the time, it's like an afterthought for some of these sales teams, because their job is to sell and not to protect the business. They're really focused on that top line, which is their job. So we see some cultural conflict there very frequently, but we want to do our part both on the change management side of that. Like, how do we bring the credit assessment earlier into the sales process? And then on the technology side, it was actually late last week, we released our Salesforce connector, and it basically gives sales just the data they need to understand what's going
You
on.
guys have a Salesforce
It's
connector?
pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet.
Let's go.
It's a good one. We got so many people saying, "How do we make this better?" The coolest thing is like the flip side of like doom and gloom and credit is sales growth. Hey, they're either headed towards bankruptcy or they're growing or maybe we're somewhere in between. So we serve up these kind of simple signals to sales and helps them prioritize their it can help them prioritize their pipeline a little bit.
Yeah, or like identify a rubbish account that like, dude, if you're getting a massive risk score, it's like, dude, perhaps that's not what I'm gonna put all my eggs in inside of this
Yeah.
pipeline type of thing. Yeah.
It's basically a stoplight. It's like green, go sell all you can. Yellow, come talk to credit. Red, like really talk to credit, and like you probably shouldn't call that prospect.
Yeah.
If something's going on, and
That's crazy. I
it's
had no
pretty cool.
idea you guys had integration with Salesforce. That's such
Yeah,
a
late,
game changer for sales reps,
yeah,
dude.
some late
That's
breaking.
wild. You used the term, I don't think it was in this context, but you said like cultural conflict
Mhm.
with like the sales reps and whatever other departments, the AR team. But I wanted to ask is have you seen like political or regional or like if there's a natural disaster somewhere, have you seen these type of very isolated incidents or temporary incidents affect what type of health or risk score is generated on the platform?
We do, yeah, and part of that is how do we feed in things like news? Like, how do we learn about those
Yeah.
things? I would say the one that's like keeping the most people up at night and affecting just very specific industries and the risk scores is tariffs. And it's just been changing so much. There's a lot of I think most of it's actually driven by uncertainty, not by some of these hard rules. But I mean, if you're manufacturing specific things in Mexico or Canada, like it can have a real distinct impact on either you directly as a company, as a manufacturer, or it can even have an impact on your customers. Some of the other pieces that we look for is like competitive play.
Mm.
We've got a customer in the building materials space, and they're very fortunate. They own the biggest distributor in Florida of this certain product. I can't say what it is.
No, no, for sure. But yeah.
They also like sell to all the small guys, the mom and pop shops, and they've been basically working with us to kind of track where's this big company opening up new shops and trying to figure out like how do they figure out like how to manage those smaller shops as they're starting to lose business to kind of this big one. And I don't know if any of us love that happening, but it's a true risk to our customer, and they're trying to figure out how do they protect themselves from it. And
Yeah.
it's crazy if you look at the map. It's like big one opens across the street from three little ones, and then it's like 3 months, and you start to see this drastic change.
This compound. Yeah, yeah. Man,
So there's
that's
kind of
wild.
macro level changes like politics and tariffs, and then there's like very, micro level changes, even in a specific city, or in this case, it's on a one street.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see how all these things come together and form a risk profile.
No, for sure. I mean, like, there's trillions of examples that I'm thinking
Oh,
of. Like, obviously, there was a terrible hurricane in Louisiana. If somebody is requesting a loan in that area right during that time, there's probably a trigger in your system that's like, you know what? A lot of that is underwater right now. We don't know the viability of this right now. Or like
that's
going
right.
back to Detroit, Motor City. Like, if we had that type of data when the automobile industry was booming and totally tanked, perhaps there would have been a fly on the wall to identify some of these negative trends and go, "Hey, bro, probably not the spot for you right now."
That's right. Yeah, we actually we have a customer that was affected by the Detroit city bankruptcy. Like very rarely do cities go bankrupt, but city of Detroit,
Yeah,
was able to count one in on that. So yeah, and I'll just say like I think on tariffs that was super interesting, especially earlier this year when there was this expectation of tariffs on everything. Credit teams like everyone we were working with, basically, maybe you guys saw this in collections too, like everyone basically had like 2 weeks, and like everyone was pre-ordering so much product
oh yeah,
and, stocking up on inventory. And then it kind of leveled out. But like there was this lull of probably 2 months where all these purchaser had bought everything they needed for like 3 to 6
Right.
months.
So they're on a surplus. Providers are like, I'm ready for the next one. Let's go.
Yeah, but it was go time and credit because like we assign these credit limits that are based on kind of
Mm,
normal business, and then all of a sudden it was like a Monday morning, our customers came to us and they're like, "Hey, our customer wants to add a zero to their credit limit." Oh my gosh, now it's like half of our customers want to add a zero to the credit limit because they want to order all this stuff, and that is a macroeconomic change that we and our customers just have to adjust to and try to figure out how to solve.
no, for sure. Well, I mean, look, no surprise to me, but another benefit to the platform is being able to take that hyper real time, even sometimes temporary type of political, geographical, regional data, city ordinance alone type of data, and to be able to use data models to build that propensity or risk scaling module to determine the viability of success there. So that's epic. Man, we're coming up on the 45 mark. I know you got a busy day ahead of you, so I want to respect the integrity of your time. I'll hit you with one last question, and that is for if you are a business owner, SMB, enterprise, like what are some of the core things that you would advise for them to run a check on prior to just immediately going pen to paper? Like, what are those, like, maybe 3 to 5 things where you're like, dude, if you're not checking this stuff out, you're missing the boat and opening yourself up for a lot of vulnerability.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I would recommend you take the time and do that. And even if you're a small business and you just want to bring money in the door, money's only, a sale is only good once you've collected the cash on it. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's why do it? So, the key things I would look for is, we can aggregate signals all day long, but the things that matter usually the most are, do they pay other people on time? And you can learn that through our data, or you can do a trade reference, or you can do both. Even though we support automated trade references, I recommend people be careful about quality of trade references there. You don't want someone's best friend submitting a reference. Like,
Right.
you need to get a job with a trade reference or with a job reference you're friendly with, but watch out for bias there. The second one I would say is lawsuits and other legal pieces. If there is a breach of contract type lawsuit, or obviously a class action lawsuit, like huge danger, and look out for liquidity issues with those companies. The last piece I would say is just like dig really deep, dig into news data. How have they performed in the past? Have they been in the news for anything positive or negative? Store openings, layoffs, business owner in trouble, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the last piece is just coming back to the 5 C's of credit. I would look at their financial standing. So we can help you with that data. We help you get their bank account information. But look at the owner and look how they've operated in the past. I think there's some telltale signs there. I don't always believe that a personal credit check is exactly representative of a business credit check, but I do believe there's often some correlation on how.
Correlation. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe not causation, but digging into those principal profiles, where they worked in the past, how did that go? Did those companies pay people on time when they were the CFO? There's so much you can do to protect yourself, both on the vendor side and then also on the customer side, from supply chain risk and from risk of non-payment. So
Yeah.
yeah, dig in. I think that's the lesson we learned. It's worth your time, and we can help you do that.
Love it. I was just gonna say, you guys heard it. Instead of doing each of those things individually, you can go and check out my man Jordan Esbin, founder and CEO of Credit Pulse. What his team is doing is truly incredible. I'll make sure that I post all of the relevant contact information to get in touch with Credit Pulse, meet some of the people with his team, maybe catch a quick demo at how this could be just a life-saving solution for your risk mitigation. My guy Jordan, couldn't be more stoked and thankful for you to come and hang out with me for a little bit today, man. I super appreciate you.
I'll put one offer out there. If anyone's looking for a digital credit app, we will give it to you for free if you learn about us through Chris's podcast. And
Let's go. You
about
heard
it.
it here first. You heard it here first. So I'll for sure make sure you guys know where to find my man Jordan. Dude, I appreciate you so much. I know that you and I are going to continue to communicate off of a recording
Absolutely.
environment. And so I look forward to our next one, man. I appreciate you, bro.
Thanks so much for the time, Chris, and thanks for having me on.
Of course. See you, Jordan.
Bye.